In this world, there are two things you should never mess with when it comes to an assassin. That is his wife, and abusing his pet. Yet this black guy never expected that he would foolishly commit both mistakes. Even with thousands of mercenaries at his disposal, they are nothing but a joke in front of this man. Once the most elite sniper in the US military. Once he takes action, his enemies are erased instantly. With his pinpoint, never-miss sniper skills, wiping out an entire gang is as easy as buying a Mega Millions ticket. So how will his journey of avenging his dog and rescuing his fiancée unfold? Just how terrifying this black man is, please enjoy this thrilling sniper action blockbuster. So intense that even war veterans would buy tickets to see it, titled The Super Sniper. This bearded guy is named Danny, and he looks no different from a weirdo. As he spends his days keeping company with his dog and living alone on a desolate snowy mountain. So cold that even the bird in his pants nearly freezes into a worm. Yet no one would have guessed that Danny has an insanely badass past. Once the leader of an anti-terror sniper unit in the US Marine Corps. But now he has retired, returned home to raise dogs, and reward himself with bottles of wheat beer. With godlike shooting skills. Danny faced countless challenges and achieved tens of thousands of combat feats. It can be said that he feared absolutely no one. But one fine day 3 years ago, Danny and his childhood best friend Bobby carried out a mission together in Africa. Their task was to provide cover for a US military convoy passing through Ethiopia. The two hid on a hillside to quietly protect the convoy. Bobby was responsible for reconnaissance, while Danny handled the rifle and eliminated the enemies. After waiting for ages, the US military convoy finally appeared. Sure enough, several terrorist vehicles were tailing them from behind. Bobby also spotted another vehicle coming head-on, attempting to block the road. With a gunman standing on the truck bed, ready to unleash machine gun fire, he immediately reported the situation to headquarters. Danny then received orders from his commander to open fire and kill the driver. Upon hearing this, Danny instantly fired and shot the gunman on the truck bed in the head. The driver met the same fate, causing the vehicle to flip over. This allowed the US convoy to pass safely and head straight for the border. Seeing the terrorists closing in from behind, Danny continued firing and took down the lead vehicle. Not only that, he even sent the driver of the following war horse home to see his family. Blocked on the road, the terrorists realized there was a sniper ambush on the hill and began spraying gunfire wildly. Using the smoke, Bobby calculated the wind direction and guided Danny to hit every shot perfectly. Just keep smashing their heads like shooting watermelons. However, the terrorists suddenly launched a fierce mortar counterattack toward the hill. Shells exploded not far from Danny and Bobby's position. One direct hit would mean a one-way trip to the underworld. Since the US convoy had crossed the border safely, there was no reason to stay and fight to the death. Just as they were about to retreat, the sound of helicopter blades suddenly echoed. It turned out the terrorists had even deployed armed helicopters for an aerial assault. With no other choice, the two immediately contacted their base to request reinforcements. However, since they were fighting on foreign soil, direct military intervention would violate international law. Therefore, the commander ordered the signal cut, leaving the two of them to fend for themselves. Realizing he had been abandoned, Danny was filled with resentment, but the priority now was to stay alive. Bobby fired grenade rounds downward to wipe out the militants, while Danny used his sniper rifle to take down the helicopter. However, unfortunately, under the helicopter's assault, his brother-in-arms Bobby answered the call of death. Danny was devastated beyond measure. He immediately picked up his most powerful weapon, the Barrett cannon, determined to shoot down that cursed steel dragonfly. Having lost his spotter, hitting a moving aerial target became extremely difficult. But in the end, with rock-solid nerves and godlike shooting skills, Danny hit the rear rotor of the helicopter, creating a chance for himself to escape. Luckily protected by his ancestors in the afterlife, he managed to survive. But after the military dealt him such a brutal blow, the two decided to retire and return home. Time then flew by like a lottery draw. 3 years passed, and he lived a peaceful life with his dog Sam, like father and son. They even drank together to drown their sorrows. But who could have expected that one day, 3 uninvited guests suddenly appeared? None other than Colonel Johnson, head of the Counterterrorism Bureau, seeking Danny. However, Danny replied, "Get lost, or I'll release the dog." Yet that bald-headed guy had a nasty attitude. When he tried to draw his gun, Danny was already prepared. "This move would have you buried here forever. No one be foolish enough to touch it, or I'll put you in the ground." Knowing who Danny was, the colonel had no choice but to humble himself. "I have only one request, give me 5 minutes, alright?" After speaking, he showed Danny a Medal of Honor. The same medal Danny's father had once received. Out of respect, Danny allowed him inside. But the other 2 bastards were not welcome. The colonel went straight to the point. A sniper had secretly sent a declaration of war directly to the government office. He claimed that within 2 weeks, the president would be assassinated with a single headshot from 1,600 meters. However, the counterterrorism security perimeter could only secure a radius of 800 meters. I want to ask whether such a shot is even possible. As the #1 sniper of the US military, Danny immediately replied that hitting from that distance would be extremely difficult. But not impossible. That is why I want you to help the government stop this plot. By identifying the location from which the assassin could pull this off. Within the next 2 weeks, the president will appear publicly at 3 locations: Baltimore, Washington Square, and Philadelphia. That's your problem, I'm not interested. Faced with Danny's indifferent attitude, Colonel Johnson skillfully played the emotional card, saying that Danny's father was a hero who sacrificed himself to protect the country. "I'm sure you don't want to see terrorists destroy it either." After saying that, the colonel left, leaving Danny lost in thought. However, like father, like son, he loved his country just like his father did. So he decided to take action. To see whether the assassin could really blow the president's head off, Danny took out his familiar sniper rifle, the M200, and set a target at 1,600 meters to aim. He asked his dog whether the president's life should be followed or unfollowed. Yet the dog did not say a single word. Because it doesn't know how to talk. With his top-tier skills and the terrifying power of the most dangerous sniper rifle in the world. With just a single bullet, Danny took down the target with absolute precision. This confirmed that if a sniper on his level existed, the president would be more likely dead than alive. Therefore, Danny immediately packed up and headed down the mountain to return to action. Before leaving the underworld, he encouraged his dog. "When I come back, I'll bring you a girlfriend." After taking a ride to Washington, D.C., Danny observed and easily noticed that too many buildings surrounded the area. So making a long-range shot from 1,600 meters was impossible. He then moved on to the second location, Baltimore. This place had extremely strong winds. Moreover, the high humidity made it impossible for the bullet to fly accurately. Finally, Philadelphia. Here, timing, terrain, and people were all favorable. Moreover, there were many unusually tall towers, perfect sniper positions to send the president to his death. After investigating and calculating, he immediately informed Colonel Johnson that, "I have found 6 positions around the square in Philadelphia where the assassin could hide and strike. If you station guards there, even with money, the assassin would not dare to show up. And naturally, the president would be safe." However, Colonel Johnson replied, "I want to capture him alive to find out who is behind this plot. Therefore, we must not alert the enemy. Let the assassin act freely. But before he pulls the trigger, you must tell me his exact location. And the special forces will immediately surround him. Since I've come this far, I might as well help." So Danny agreed to this plan. 3 days later, the president arrived in Philadelphia. The square was packed with citizens witnessing this major event. Snipers were deployed everywhere. Helicopters filled the sky like dragonflies. Danny and Colonel Johnson were also present. The colonel chose a room not far from the square so Danny could observe and spot the sniper. Everything was in position. FBI personnel were planted everywhere. This ceremony was also attended by the Archbishop of Africa. After observing, Danny noticed yellow ribbons hanging from poles and immediately determined the wind direction. Only the church bell tower could be used to make this shot. So he immediately told Colonel Johnson to have the rapid response team surround it. Suddenly, a malnourished-looking local police officer appeared out of nowhere. The man tried to strike up a conversation, but Danny showed no interest. At this moment, the president arrived and shook hands with the African archbishop, preparing to give a speech. Just as Danny had calculated, the assassin raised his rifle and aimed directly at the target. Realizing the moment had come, Danny urgently warned them to take the assassin down, because he was about to pull the trigger. Unexpectedly, at that moment, the African archbishop was shot through the head. The scene descended into chaos, but the president remained unharmed. Danny turned back to ask why, but was shot in the chest by the fat policeman. He immediately fled, leaping through a window and landing on a rooftop. Yet the overweight man relentlessly pursued him, intent on killing him, nearly turning Danny into a human beehive. Fortunately still alive, he dragged himself away to escape. With the instincts of an elite special forces soldier, Danny realized he had fallen into a trap, and that running was now the best option. It turned out that earlier, the old Colonel Johnson had devised a plan to assassinate the president. Knowing that Danny was a special forces soldier harboring deep resentment toward the military and the government, so he went to the snowy mountains and lured Danny into becoming a scapegoat for this plot. Seeing that the useless fat man fired 20 shots without taking Danny down, Johnson immediately ordered a lockdown and even deployed armed helicopters to hunt him. Not only that, they also took Danny's M200 rifle and staged a fake crime scene. The purpose was to make all the evidence point to Danny as the culprit. Immediately afterward, the FBI launched a citywide manhunt. At an intersection, Danny encountered a young FBI agent named Li Xin. The man immediately pulled out a 21cm pistol from his pants to subdue him. But Danny pretended to be confused, then suddenly knocked him down and robbed him clean. Before leaving, he said that he did not shoot the president. He had been framed. After that, Danny borrowed the young agent's car with no intention of ever returning it. But things were far from over. Police cars flooded the streets. Helicopters crisscrossed the sky like a spider web. Through the radio signals in the car, Danny learned that even his escape in an FBI agent's battered car had been discovered. When misfortune strikes, it never comes alone. His wounds kept bleeding non-stop. So he immediately turned into an automatic car wash to buy some time. Knowing that every service vehicle always has a first aid kit in the back seat, Danny used a knife to cut himself open further, then pulled out the supplies and endured the pain to temporarily stop the bleeding. With 2 gunshot wounds, without immediate treatment, survival was unlikely. When the car wash ended, Danny rushed out, but the police had already caught up. Realizing his position had been exposed, with no other choice, Danny showed off his driving skills, weaving through traffic, but misfortune piled onto misfortune. While crossing an intersection to shake pursuit, Danny was rear-ended by a truck, causing his car to spin around. Facing hundreds of police officers, Danny had no choice but to floor the gas, ram through a construction site gate, then reverse straight into a river without hesitation. Everyone thought that a wounded man like Danny had only death awaiting him. Yet not a single body was found. Even searching downstream revealed no trace at all. It turned out Danny had latched onto a barge and escaped upstream unnoticed. He quickly climbed ashore but was gasping for breath, vomiting blood due to severe injuries. But having decided to leave, he could not afford to waste a single second. Spotting a pickup truck, Danny approached to hotwire it like a pro. He bypassed the wires and started the engine in a slick, almost magical way, driving the beast out of the police encirclement. Having lost too much blood, Danny stopped at a convenience store to buy medical supplies. He saw his own face plastered all over the TV, as the nationwide manhunt had already been broadcast. To stay safe, Danny pulled the fuse box behind the store, then rummaged through the trash to find aluminum foil and used it to short-circuit the power. After cutting the lights and plunging the place into darkness, Danny finally dared to show himself and buy some sugar and salt. He opened the hood and took a rubber hose, then went into the restroom to save his own life. As a U.S. Special Forces soldier, if his survival skills ranked second, no one would dare claim first. Danny mixed a solution of sugar and salt, inserted the tube, and infused it into his body to boost energy and stabilize his blood pressure. He applied some foundation to his face as camouflage, then set off to another state. Meanwhile, at FBI headquarters, the news was reporting that an FBI agent had been knocked out in seconds by the assassin Danny using just 2 punches. No one else but Li Xin himself. This made him want to put his pants on his head out of sheer embarrassment. He was at risk of being expelled from the organization due to his terrible combat skills. It was already lucky that he didn't get his teeth knocked out. The assassin even said he didn't kill the president and had been framed. But his superiors believed he was simply terrified and talking nonsense. Half believing and half doubting, Li Xin began revisiting the crime scene to investigate. Soon, he discovered that something was off. On the other side, Danny drove through the night until dawn, and finally arrived in the city of Atlanta, where the girlfriend of his late best friend Bobby was living. Hearing a knock at the door, Sarah peeked through the glass and recognized Danny, Bobby's close friend. However, knowing he was wanted, she stayed on guard. Under Sarah's suspicious gaze and the gun in her hand, Danny hurriedly explained that he did not shoot the president. The president wasn't dead, the one who was shot was the African archbishop. He swore he had been framed, even swearing that his 2 ex-girlfriends would die if he was lying. He said he had 2 bullets lodged in his body and desperately needed her help. After a long bout of crying and pleading, Sarah finally softened and let him inside. Danny handed her a list of medications needed to treat his wounds, then told her to split the purchases across different pharmacies to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, FBI agent Diana arrived at the office and found Li Xin sitting there looking completely drained. After a sleepless night, he said he had found anomalies in the presidential assassination case. According to military records, Danny's shooting accuracy at 1,600 meters had a margin of error of only 4 centimeters. However, in the assassination attempt, the shot deviated by as much as 76 centimeters and hit the African archbishop. In addition, the fat police officer claimed that he saw the muzzle of Danny's rifle sticking out of the window and went to investigate, then tried to take him down but failed. In reality, no sniper would be stupid enough to stick the barrel out of a window. They would shoot from inside the room. Hearing this, FBI agent Diana handed Li Xin a newspaper and said that the obese police officer had been shot dead by a robber last night. Sure enough, this was clearly a silencing murder. Meanwhile, Sarah returned home with the necessary supplies. Danny used the military knowledge he had learned to guide her. Then he inhaled anesthetic to knock himself unconscious so she could treat his wounds. She seemed to know nothing about medicine, but still managed to complete the procedure remarkably well. When he woke up from the haze, Danny's condition had improved significantly. However, Diana delivered some terrible news. His beloved dog had been shot dead by them. Remembering the moments with his dog, Danny swore that if he did not take revenge, he would not be human. Meanwhile, Li Xin went to all the locations to investigate and discovered that the church bell tower best matched the bullet trajectory and calculations. Moreover, it directly overlooked the square, making it an ideal position. In addition, Li Xin also found 4 highly suspicious holes beneath the floor. And in the middle there was a large hole, as big as a wasp nest, leading straight down below. If you don't know something, just ask Google. He discovered that the weapon used in the assassination was AT-250D, a cutting-edge military weapon remotely controlled via cables and fixed to the floor with 4 legs. The hole in the center was precisely for routing the control cables downward. At this point, Li Xin could be certain that Danny was not the assassin who tried to kill the president that day. Meanwhile, under Diana's devoted care, Danny's wounds gradually recovered. She also told him that she was still single, lonely, and all alone. After many days together, it seemed that Diana had developed feelings for Danny and trusted him completely. However, at this moment, women meant nothing to him. Avenging his beloved dog was everything. Danny decided to pack up and leave to take revenge. Before setting off, Sarah gave him the hunting rifle left behind by his late friend Bobby, then burst into tears, saying she didn't want Danny to go, because he might end up sharing the same grave with the late Bobby. She hugged Danny tightly, but he kept his distance, because no matter what, she was still his friend's girlfriend. Then Danny said, "I have a plan. That is to lure the snake out of its hole, and I need your help. We will use that cop Li Xin as bait to draw out the mastermind behind the presidential assassination plot." Earlier, when Colonel Johnson came to Danny's house in the snowy mountains, Danny had secretly photographed the license plate of his car. So the next day, Danny asked Diana to disguise herself and meet Li Xin at a cafe. then handed him the photo of Johnson's license plate that Danny had taken, and told him that Danny was still alive and that this car belonged to the mastermind behind everything. After finishing, she immediately left. Seeing that Diana was safe, Danny, watching from outside, finally felt somewhat relieved. However, at that moment, 2 patrol officers came over to question him. "Take off your hat and show your papers." Seeing the K-9 distracted by the scent of coffee, to confirm the target, Danny splashed coffee into one officer's face and charged forward. He rolled down with both the officer and the dog, but was still restrained by the other cop. As fast as an X turning her face away, Danny instantly took him down in a blink and fled. Then he removed his jacket and tossed it into a trash can, escaping easily. At FBI headquarters, after obtaining the mastermind's license plate, Li Xin immediately entered a secure room and requested access to the national database to look up the vehicle information. Sure enough, this action attracted the attention of the Counterterrorism Bureau. Johnson's assistant discovered it and reported that an FBI agent was using the internal network to search for information about the vehicle Johnson used to travel to the snowy mountains. Only one agent had met Danny before he disappeared. That agent was Li Xin. Upon receiving this information, Johnson immediately ordered a silencing operation. Soon after, while Li Xin was wandering aimlessly looking for clues, he was suddenly grabbed by 3 masked assassins and forced into a car. They then took him to an abandoned riverside house and brutally tortured him. "Tell us where Danny is, or you'll be joining the God of Death." "Not a chance, I won't say a word." They tortured him in every way but still got nothing. So they decided it was better to kill the wrong person than let anyone slip away, and staged a suicide. The bald man with the shiny head took Li Xin's gun and placed it in his hand. With this special steel frame, even Sherlock Holmes would have to conclude that Li Xin committed suicide. However, just as one man was forcing him to pull the trigger, a bullet suddenly slammed straight into his head. The bald man with a lot of hair panicked and hid behind cover, but foolishly stuck his head out and was also taken down. It turned out to be Danny with his hunting rifle. The big boss realized something was wrong, but it was already too late. Li Xin complained that it turned out Danny had used him as bait. "That's right, I planned to keep one of them alive for interrogation, but they were determined to kill you, so I had no choice but to act. I have to report this to FBI headquarters immediately. When the law can't handle it, we have to use jungle law. You have no way back now. I'll slit that bastard's throat." After the 2 of them were in the same boat, Danny and Li Xin headed to a desolate mountain area. This was the hideout of a legendary gun master, known as Grandpa Master. Danny said that this man would definitely have some clues. Once inside the house, Danny immediately went into emotional confession mode and started crying, telling him everything that had happened. "On this trip, I want to know who fired that shot." Not knowing who Danny was, the old man said that making a kill from 1,600 meters away could be done by no more than 5 people in the world. First, me. Second, a US Marine sniper named Danny. The third is a guy in Russia who died after playing Free Fire for over 180 minutes straight. The fourth is a terrorist in Iraq who is currently rotting in prison. The last one is a godlike sniper who is now paralyzed in both legs. His name is Duong Min Tuen. He is the most brutal shooter I have ever seen. Normally, we blow the enemy's head apart, but Duong Min Tuen only shoots the legs to cripple his targets. He waits for the victims' relatives to come rescue them, then wipes them all out. One day, he hid inside an abandoned building to take on an entire elite special forces unit. Unable to approach him, they shelled the building and blasted everything back to the Stone Age. Even after tons of reinforced concrete collapsed onto his head, he still didn't die. Instead, he was crippled and confined to a wheelchair. At that moment, Danny remembered that he had seen this crippled sniper at Old Man Johnson's place. Earlier, on the other side, Johnson received news that 3 assassins had been taken out at the abandoned house, and said that the FBI kid was not as simple as he seemed. However, the crippled sniper Duong Min Tuen disagreed. They were shot from a distance of 180 meters with a hunting rifle. That was Danny. He's still alive and searching for evidence to overturn his conviction. At this moment, Johnson's subordinate reported that every month Danny sent his pension money to a woman named Sarah. She is the widow of a soldier named Bobby who was killed in action 3 years ago. Upon receiving this news, Old Man Johnson immediately ordered his men to go to Sarah's house to investigate Danny's whereabouts. That night, as Sarah was about to go take a shower and freshen up, she heard a strange noise. She became alert and grabbed a weapon. Before the assassin could find anything, he was shot dead on the spot by Sarah. But she was suddenly restrained by another man. "Where is Danny? Speak now or I'll blow your head off." However, Sarah had no idea where the hell Danny was. So when he got nothing out of her, he sent her to the afterlife. The plan failed. Old Man Johnson also followed Danny's tactic of luring the snake out of its hole. He told the crippled sniper Duong Min Tuen that Danny was tracking down the assassin. In truth, it was only a matter of time before Danny came looking for him. "You mean to catch the wolf you need bait, and you are the bait." After hearing this, Duong Min Tuen was furious, never expecting Johnson to treat him this way. On the other side, the FBI agent Li Shin asked his close friend Diana to investigate the whereabouts of Duong Min Tuen. Sure enough, Johnson had deliberately leaked the information, so it wasn't difficult for Diana to find it. That night, she informed Danny that Duong Min Tuen was hiding at a farm on the outskirts of town. Knowing that the fish had taken the bait, Johnson met with a corrupt senator from the same faction and requested 50 Special Forces soldiers to capture Danny. On the other side, Danny was completely unaware of this. After observing the place where Duong Min Tuen was hiding, he immediately came up with a plan. Danny took his partner to a fabrication workshop. Then they split up to buy a large number of necessary supplies, before heading into the forest and starting to build. With enough grinding, even iron can become a crowbar, molotovs, pipe bombs, and indispensable remote-controlled tear gas. So impressive that even mad scientists would have to call Danny. Besides that, he also taught his junior Li Shin some basic gun handling skills. Under the harshest conditions, Danny realized his junior also had talent as a marksman. Danny decided that the two of them would begin the operation. Li Shin was assigned to reconnaissance duty, and discovered 3 guards. One of them went off to relieve himself, so Danny distracted him with a sleight-of-hand stone throw. Then immediately stood up, covered his mouth, and stabbed him, sending him to his ancestors. Seeing the second guard patrolling the road, Danny moved closer and hid beneath a drainage pipe. Hearing a noise, the idiot leaned down to look and Danny took a bit of his blood. Danny continued moving to deal with the remaining guard. With a flick of his hand, he also planted a few bombs for good measure. When this guy approached, Danny choked him to death. After dealing with the troublesome bunch, Danny began setting up a deadly net. He planted timed explosives throughout every corner of the area, then advanced toward the house, quickly taking down a man on the rooftop, then charging straight inside, where he saw Duong Min Tuen posing by the window. Getting straight to the point, he asked, "I want to know the truth. Who is Johnson, and why did you kill the Archbishop?" Furious that Johnson had used him as bait, Duong Min Tuen revealed everything. "I was just a pawn in his plan, ready to be discarded once the job was done." In reality, Johnson's target was never the US president, but the Archbishop. If you want to assassinate someone without drawing suspicion, wait until that person stands next to the president, then strike. That day at the square in Philadelphia. Before the Archbishop could expose Johnson's dark crimes to the public, I killed him. Johnson, under the guise of a colonel, colluded with African oil traffickers to build oil pipelines. They forced villagers to relocate from their homes. Anyone who resisted was shot dead. Over 400 bodies of women and children were buried beneath an oil pumping station. That's why the Archbishop wanted to expose the truth, but was silenced. 3 years ago, you and Bobby escorted a US military convoy through Ethiopia. That convoy carried soldiers who had massacred civilians in Africa. The true mastermind behind all of this was not Johnson, but the senator. When they couldn't get anything out of Sarah, they used me as bait. If I don't die at your hands today, I'll be silenced by them anyway. After saying that, Duong Min Tuen picked up the gun and ended his own life. At that moment, Old Man Johnson's special task force arrived to surround and capture Danny. However, Li Shin noticed it in time and quickly warned him over the radio. Danny told him to retreat immediately and prepare for the explosives to detonate. Thinking fast, Li Shin followed the order and chose a high vantage point to observe. Spotting 2 men sneaking in through the back door, Danny was already waiting and shot them, spilling their guts. The second guy tried to grab his gun but failed, so Danny put a bullet in his head. Seeing more of them rushing in from the front entrance, Danny planted a timed bomb and withdrew. As soon as they arrived, the explosion blew them to pieces. 2 more charging in were hit by tear gas. Their guns were seized and they were shot dead on the spot. Anyone who tried to chase them was taken out immediately. All of them were elite operatives, but against Danny they were nothing more than fish on a cat's whiskers. Struggling to escape, they ran toward the warehouse for cover. Danny told Li Xin to detonate the charges, turning the entire place into a mass grave. Some were roasted alive in the darkness. Those lucky enough to survive were finished off by Li Xin with a few bullets. Not a single one could be spared, they all had to end up in coffins. Suddenly, a helicopter swooped in and opened fire from above. Quick on his feet, Danny ran to the mound where Li Xin was hiding. Remembering how he lost his friend Bobby 3 years ago, Danny decided to change tactics this time. He told his junior to retreat behind the warehouse to hide. Danny drew the enemy's attention so Li Xin could escape safely. Then he risked his life to follow after him. However, Danny realized that many special forces were still firing at the two of them. Spotting a fuel tank, he told Li Xin to lure the helicopter in that direction. Li Xin immediately complied. Danny aimed his rifle straight at the fuel tank, causing a massive explosion that engulfed the helicopter. The men standing nearby were burned to ashes as well. After a life-and-death battle, the two finally defeated everyone and escaped the encirclement safely. Johnson reported the news to the senator, who flew into a rage, saying that this guy dared to defy heaven itself. Kill him at all costs. At the FBI headquarters, an employee reported to Li Xin's boss that the massacre of 50 special forces in the suburbs was carried out by the assassin Danny along with our agent Li Xin. Upon hearing this, the boss was stunned, eyes wide and mouth agape, having previously underestimated his subordinate. As everyone was still trying to figure out what the hell had happened, Li Xin called and said, "Surprised yet, old man? Someone once said I was useless and threatened to fire me. Yet I just casually took out 50 special forces and shot down a helicopter. Watch closely and see what this guy does next." It turned out Danny wanted to contact Johnson, so he used this method to lure him out. Sure enough, Johnson's people intercepted the call and traced Li Xin's phone number. As expected, Johnson called Danny and said, "Have you eaten yet, kid? You've lost, I have your girl in my hands. There's always a bigger fish, and I've got something even better." After saying that, Danny played the recording of Duong Min Tuen's confession. "Earlier, I obtained the coordinates where you buried over 400 innocent civilians in Africa beneath an oil pumping station." Duong Min Tuen confessed everything. "So, shall we make a deal? Where do you want to meet?" "The snowy mountains." The next day, Johnson brought Sarah to the meeting point. The senator also showed up to witness Danny falling into the trap. The lecher took the opportunity to hold the beauty in his arms to feel warm. Danny knew that Johnson was extremely cunning and ruthless, so he was sure sniper units had been set up. Therefore, he disguised himself and blended into the white snow. Li Xin, wearing a bulletproof vest, appeared from afar to lure them into opening fire. The two old men thought it was Danny and laughed smugly. However, Danny had already detected the snipers' positions and shot them, blowing their brains out. This move was something even Johnson's ancestors could never have predicted. Li Xin stood up and walked closer. He pulled out the steel bulletproof plate, shocking everyone. However, they were still holding Sarah hostage. Noticing the guy was a pervert, Danny aimed carefully and shot the gun to pieces, making the man cry out in Latin. Before he could recover, Danny shot through his arm, drawing blood. Li Xin rushed forward and untied the beauty. Danny also appeared, subdued everyone, and had his partner confiscate their weapons. Seeing this, Sarah picked up a gun and riddled the filthy pervert who had violated her. Cornered, the senator suddenly changed his tune and said, "You are the bravest marksman I have ever known. With your strength combined with ours, we could sit atop mountains of gold. To do disgusting things like slaughtering innocent civilians at an oil station? Do you think I did that for my own benefit? From the Secretary of Defense to the President, they all live off oil, son. Besides, why would the US government expose its own crimes to the whole world? Even if you handed it over to anyone, you'd still be silenced." Just then, the sound of a helicopter approached. Li Xin said it was the FBI. In fact, he had secretly sent the location to his superiors to surround the area. However, Danny knew the system of power was completely corrupt. So to protect their lives, he burned Duong Min Tuan's recording and explained that giving it to the government would only get them all silenced. I give up, I just want to be an ordinary person, is that okay? Seeing that Danny now understood how the world really worked, the senator calmly left, while Johnson said, I win, you lose. The FBI arrived, Danny surrendered, was put in handcuffs, and taken to the Department of Justice to be charged with assassinating the president. Li Shin pretended to shake hands with Danny in sympathy, but in reality, he secretly slipped him a bullet. Johnson said to take this guy away and have him executed. There's no need to let him appeal. That weapon is the evidence, don't waste time, internal affairs. We don't listen to prostitute stories. Nor do we listen to drug addicts' excuses, let alone a presidential assassin like him. We act according to the Constitution. Please shut up, Danny, you have 5 minutes. The opportunity had come. Danny immediately loaded the bullet Li Shin gave him. Then cocked the gun and aimed straight at Johnson, shocking everyone. He pulled the trigger, but the gun did not fire. Then Danny explained. I have a habit of removing the firing pin whenever I take a weapon out of the house. This gun was seized by the FBI at the scene that day and sealed, so how could I be the one who killed the Archbishop? This was Old Man Johnson's conspiracy. He assassinated the African Archbishop to cover up his crimes. And I was just the scapegoat. Johnny sneered and said. Without evidence, don't even think about convicting me. As he was about to leave, Li Shin showed the head of Internal Affairs something important. It was horrific, blood-soaked images of the massacre of African civilians carried out by Johnson and the oil traffickers. However, Johnson had powerful backing and was not afraid. He said. Even if it's true, it doesn't matter. Because it didn't happen on U.S. soil. Only an international court has the authority to judge me. The head of Internal Affairs could only helplessly watch Johnson walk free. He even arrogantly taunted Danny. I win, and you lose again. This made Danny's eyes burn with rage. The head of Internal Affairs said that justice is nothing but a comedian. Sometimes, jungle law must be used to punish evil. Although Johnson couldn't be convicted, Danny was released after proving his innocence. That night, Johnson and the senator were boasting about defeating Danny at a suburban villa. Just as they were celebrating, a bullet of justice fell from the sky. Johnson stood up and was instantly shot through the chest. The others panicked and crawled on the ground like maggots. But there was nowhere to escape. The senator tried to flee by car, but Danny turned it into scrap metal. He moved in and out like a ghost. Then gunned down the henchmen, making them scream in pain. The senator shouted, "Are you insane? I am a United States senator. So what, do you know who my father is?" After saying that, Danny sent the old man straight to hell. Then he released gas throughout the house and quickly escaped outside. A thunderous explosion immediately echoed behind him. If justice cannot be served, then he had to take matters into his own hands. Danny walked through the forest and saw Sarah waiting there. In the end, he avenged his dog and gained a beautiful lover. Truly, your best friend's wife is always something indescribable. This movie shows us that society is still full of injustice. There is no shortage of interest groups profiting from others' lives. However, heaven sees all, and karma spares no one. What you take first, you will pay back later, and it hurts even more. Like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you everyone, I love you, mwah mwah, bye bye.